is 7:03, and I'm going to call to order a very brief and administrative meeting of the Audit and Internal Controls Committee of the Nassau Interim Finance Authority. It's October 15th. First item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from the September 10th meeting. Chairman Barsky, would you like to move that?
Yep. Motion to move.
I'll make and second that. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. The minutes are passed. The second item is a follow-up from our previous presentation. I think Carl's going to walk us through the retention of an external audit firm for the upcoming fiscal year.
Thank you and good evening. As I had mentioned to you in the last meeting, we had started the RSM, the RFQ process, since our contract with RSM had expired at the end of last audit engagement. What we had done for the RFP process was to post it on our website. We also posted it on the New York State Contract Reporter. I reached out to MWBE contacts in New York State, as well as the service disabled owned business veterans. I got lists from MWBE and the SDVOB, did some research, and ended up sending RFPs to 3 MWBE firms and one SDVOB firm. I also reached out to 2 firms that were recommended to me by 2 of the directors. Despite all the outreach, we received two proposals. One proposal was from EFPR Group of Williamsville, New York. And even though they did have a presence on Long Island, doing firehouses and school districts, they aren't a prominent New York State, prominent national firm, which our SBPA requires.
Is that Freitag's firm? Is
that
the F Freitag?
Doesn't sound familiar.
You know?
I'm not sure. I know what you're talking about. I don't think so. It's way upstate, Williamsville.
Yeah, well, where's Freitag?
That might be him.
Yeah.
But RSM is national. In fact,
RSM is nationally acclaimed. They appeared in top 10 lists. I looked through the top 100 firms of the United States, and the EFPR Group doesn't appear on any of them. So, as a result, I'm proposing that we offer a contract to RSM. It's a 3-year contract with 2 one-year options, which is, I think, consistent with that with the county.
And is the county also engaging RSM?
Yes, they are.
Which is obviously a good buyer value for us and for them. My guess is a national firm would never bid on NIFA because it's a small audit, unless they were also bidding on the county.
That's correct.
So we pick up those synergies as well.
And I think it's understood.
Right. It's a fair, I mean, if we can use the county's auditor, we should. Our numbers roll into theirs, and that just streamlines the process.
Efficiencies are gained. There's no coordination needed between firms.
So who's going to be our audit partner?
Our audit partner had changed. It used to be Ken Bassett.
Right.
And I think it's going to be the same partner that is in charge at the county. Doug?
Jen Katz. Is
Jen?
Is Jen our partner as well? She was last year.
Yeah. Well, Jen Katz is going to be the engagement.
Our engagement partner.
But the lead
Overall.
partner, yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right.
So
you'd like us to pass, I think that's a fair process you've gone through. We can pass this through and the full board can ratify as the contracting agency for the authority. Does that make sense? So they can move that?
Motion to move.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. That motion is passed. The third item on the agenda is to deal with NIFA accounting software and to hire a consultant in that regard. I think Carl, you're going to walk us through that as well.
I will. This process was initiated by the expiration of our 5-year authorization and the announced retirement of the main person who was in charge of our account. I mean, he had, I think he may have been our contact guy since the beginning. So we decided to, go through the RFP, actually look for another software consultant by going through New York State Shared Services.
Okay.
And that took the duration of the summer. We went through several steps and ended up getting recommendations from four firms. Of the 4 firms, I interviewed one of them. And after a conversation, she agreed with me that it wouldn't make sense to take them on as a consultant if they couldn't do any of the licensing should we need an upgrade. So they disengaged themselves. Two of the other companies geographically wouldn't have worked at all. One was located in Albany, one was located in Florida. So from that point, we issued an RFP. I went through a very similar process that I did with the auditors, reaching out to the MWBEs, reaching out to the SDVOBs, and received a list from the SDVOBs. Went through all the recommended firms and found that they were all hardware people. So really didn't have anybody come from that. So when we issued the RFP, we got back 3 proposals. One of them proposed an annual fee of $150,000. So that knocked them right out. Another one issued an hourly, quoted an hourly rate, but the person that they wanted to assign us to, they sent the resume up to us, and we saw that all of his recent work history was in Florida. It was in Tampa, Florida. So I reached out to that firm, talked to the bid manager and the president. I left messages for both.
Right.
I finally got a call from the president last week, who was talking about being an MWBE and so forth, and when I asked whether he was a licensed Microsoft dealer, he hung up the phone. That was one of our requirements,
So
was that
that's-
they had to be a
that's a
licensed
withdrawal.
Microsoft dealer.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we would have to go shopping if we had to do an upgrade. So, of the 3 proposals that I received, the third one was from the incumbent, who understood what our needs are, is a licensed Microsoft dealer, and quoted annual fees of $1,269 for our regular software and $350 for our accounting, for our bank rec software.
Yep.
So you'd like us to,
Sounds good.
you
I'd
would
like to
us
propose
approve this
them.
for 30,000, looks like it's a cap of 30 a year?
The 30,000 is over 6 years.
Right.
During the 5-year authorization period,
Right.
we spent $12,000.
Okay, so that's pretty low.
Yep.
Yeah, so
So-
that should be more than sufficient.
Okay, so would you like to move that?
Motion to move?
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. I should point out for the record that all the other directors who are present for the meeting are here at the committee meeting, so they may ask no questions or less questions in the full board meeting, since they've been privy to this Q&A session in the committee. Last item is to discuss NIFA's own 9-month results, which is at tab 4.
That's correct. What you have before you is a cash basis report, which shows our receipts and expenditures for the 9 months ended September 30th. If you look down, you'll see that after 9 months, we've spent 49.5% of our budgeted amount, leaving the other 50.5% over the last 3 months of the year.
If the county did that, they'd have an actual surplus.
Well, we're operating well under budget,
Okay.
so that should require less cash from the county.
Any questions for Carl on that from anybody on the board or the committee while we're at it? It's pretty straightforward. So thank you
Yeah.
for that. That's
One
an
item I will point out
Yeah,
is under control period.
yes.
You can see that we've spent $36,000. I think we have a $65,000 bill in front of us.
Yes.
So that will get us very close, if not a little bit over, that $100,000 that's budgeted.
That's because of the recent federal case and court action on the wage freeze case.
Yes.
That's correct, the appearance. If you look at professional fees, there's
Money well spent.
$500,000 available.
Yep.
So any excess on that line item can be covered by a surplus
Yep,
on the professional fee line item.
okay,
Gotcha. So
great.
for that, that's a matter of us being advised. The full board has been advised as well. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn the committee. Nate?
Motion?
Second, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Committee's adjourned. Meeting is yours.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carl.
Nicely done.
Okay, we'll now call to the order the regular meeting of the Nassau County Interim Finance Authority, October 15th, 2019. And I will look for a motion on the first item on the agenda, which is the approval of the minutes. If there is no corrections or comments, I would entertain a motion.
Made.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, item 2 is an item that was just discussed in the Audit and Internal Controls meeting. All the board members were present at that time, and we voted to move to this board the authorization to retain RSM LLP as the auditors for the authority for 3 years with a 2-year option to renew. Is that right? So I'll move that for the full board's consideration.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, the next item is an item that we also discussed in the Audit and Internal Controls Committee meeting that all board members were present, to hire a consultant for a reasonable and nominal amount to support our accounting software and to take related actions, and I will move that at this time for the full board's consideration.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the consideration of county contract for AECom USA. Carl, you're going to present that?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
This is a contract for an owner's agent for a design-build contract, which is supposed to move the effluent from the Bay Park Treatment Center over to Cedar Creek. This was a little unusual because New York State Department of Environmental Control performed the procurement process because under New York State law, the county can't engage with a company under a design-build type agreement. So the the Department of Environmental Control took the lead, went through the RFP process, sent out an RFQ to 30-some-odd firms. Interviewed 22 firms, then they came down to 6, and AECom was the highest graded. All right, this contract is for 5 years, $16,630,000. It's covered under the New York State Environmental Facilities Loan, which has built in an automatic 25% forgiveness fee. So the fee is really $12,470,000. There was some news this morning
Well,
where...
is the fee $16 million, but the cost to the county is $12 million? Or
That's
will
correct.
AECom only get $12 million?
No, the cost of the county will be $12 million.
Okay, well, that clarifies it.
The $16 million still goes to AECom. There was a piece of news this morning where it was announced that there was a sale of the management consulting group within AECom. We reached out to AECom, got a letter back saying that the management consulting group is a division that's completely separate from the design and design and consulting group, and they don't see any impact on this upcoming contract.
So there's no need to reconsider or reaffirm this contract at a later date because it's not going with that
That's right, it's not going with that group.
Thank you.
All right, the contract is for them to be an owner's agent. Their role is to run and close out the project. What they're supposed to do is they're supposed to conduct the RFP process with the DB contractor and oversee the contract to its completion. Can I answer any other questions?
So the contract will be awarded by EFC and then transferred to the county, or how is that going to actually happen?
I believe that's
In terms of the design build, how does it actually,
It's a tri-party agreement between the state, AECom, and the county.
So it's a tri-party agreement.
So all three parties are signing up on the agreement.
okay. But the state will actually be the ones making the procurement
State
under
agency-
their authorization to do design build.
Yes,
So you tag along.
yes. We'll pay the bills.
Okay,
I'll move it.
is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next, and last item on the agenda is the adoption of the staff report concerning the proposed Nassau County multi-year financial plan fiscal 2020 through 2023, and the recommendations contained. Evan, would you like to give an overview of the report?
Yes.
And answer any questions?
So staff reviewed the administration's proposed multi-year plan and prepared a report of findings. That report had been distributed to the board in advance of this meeting. In the report, it discusses specific risks and concerns that we see in the proposed budget and plan. We find that the proposed plan contains significant risks in each year of the plan, although we note that the risks total $47.5 million on a GAAP basis in 2020. And that amount is the lowest amount of risk that we have assessed for a proposed budget since the control period began in 2011. This, of course, is generally a positive sign. It reflects a proposed budget that is built on assumptions which we conclude are mostly realistic, though not assured. However, we project out-year deficits that could grow to $76.3 million in 2021, $143.9 million in 2022, and $194 million in 2023. Consequently, we conclude that the control period is likely to remain in effect for the foreseeable future. Now, the persistent deficits endure because the county's annual efforts to close their budget year deficits have not eliminated the mismatch in growth rates between recurring revenues and recurring expenditures. So, because of that, near term, well, as I said, we estimate that the proposed budget has gap risk totaling $47.5 million, and that includes $7.3 million in favorable gap accounting adjustments, which have been estimated by the controller. It's merely, it's an estimate and will not be known until the year closes. But right now, it looks like it will actually help them in terms of closing the gap. It's important, though, I want to be clear that our projections do not include any risks that could result from a more aggressive pace of paying tax certiorari refunds beyond what is budgeted in the operating budget and available in the disputed assessment fund. I highlight this because the administration has proposed borrowing up to $200 million in December to provide additional resources to pay down the tax certiorari backlog related to claims that arose prior to December 31st, 2017. They have not yet requested this authorization from the county legislature or from NIFA, but it would need NIFA's approval at such time that they propose and it's approved by the county legislature. The administration does understand that the projected deficit would increase on a dollar-for-dollar basis to the extent bond proceeds are used to make refund payments. So in other words, the projected deficit, if the county were to use all $200 million of borrowed money to pay tax cert refunds in 2020, the projected deficit would be $247 million instead of $47 million. I want to also be clear that our projections do not include additional costs that could result from new labor contracts that will eventually succeed those contracts that expired at the end of 2017. The administration's approach with collective bargaining has been to, they're seeking to negotiate new labor agreements that have savings that substantially offset salary increases through enhanced productivity and union concessions. Our projections, because of our projections, we conclude that this approach to negotiating is imperative for the county to have sustained fiscal stability. The good news is that a portion of the projected risks in 2020 can be eliminated if the county collects $14.6 million in incremental sales tax revenue that they expect to receive or to be generated by the extension of sales tax to online purchases that have been made from merchants who do not have a physical presence in New York State. That's a new change that was enacted by the state.
So you're saying that's in the budget or not in the budget?
The administration's proposed budget assumes that they will collect $14.6 million. Because it lacks a history, this sales tax went into effect in June.
Mm-hmm.
We are risking $7.3 million
Okay.
of that amount. Another way for the deficit could close if the county realizes $6.7 million in additional revenue from real estate-related transactions that are subject to the GIS tax map verification fee. Our analysis, the current trends, we are not sanguine that they'll be able to realize that revenue, but perhaps with low interest rates, falling mortgage rates, there will be continued activity on the real estate transaction front. Another $6.5 million of risk could be eliminated if the county, in fact, sells county property, which they have budgeted. The reason we keep that at risk, every year our approach is we hold that at risk until the county actually identifies buyers, negotiates purchase contracts and closes of the transactions before the end of the year. There have been some years where the county fell far short of what they budgeted, and there are some years where they do achieve it. So the county, it's somewhat in their control whether they're able to make those sales happen before the end of the year. And the last major item that would be helpful is if OTB remits the full $5 million obligation to the county in this coming May, after it closes out its fiscal year, which ends March 31st. They have an obligation to pay $20 million per year, and that, as I discussed at the last meeting, is going to be paid in 4 $5 million tranches. And we're concerned that the last, well, this essentially the fourth OTB quarter, fiscal year quarter, is subject to a reconciliation of their finances, and it remains to be seen whether they'll be able to whether they will pass on to the county the full $5 million. The county projects that there will be baseline gaps in the out years, even if it could successfully implement its entire 2020 budget. Stated differently, the county projects that a successfully managed 2020 will not prevent baseline gaps from re-emerging in 2021. And that has to do with the recurring expenditures or the recurring revenues not keeping pace with recurring expenditures. Our analysis indicates that the gaps may be larger than what the county estimates, and as I had mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, we are projecting risks that range from $76 million in 2021 up to $194.3 million in 2023. If the county's, if decisive actions are not taken now to resolve the risks that we have identified for the 2020 budget. So in conclusion, we find that long-term fiscal stability will require the county to adopt measures that significantly raise the level of recurring revenue, and that recurring revenue must grow in order to keep pace with the expenditures, which tend to grow over the years, if only because of inflation. In the alternative, the county must reduce its expenditures to a level that can be sustained by the desired level of revenues that they're choosing to raise. Since some level of expenditure growth is inevitable, a reasonable course of action would combine both approaches, reducing expenditures and looking to find ways to increase their revenues. And that concludes my comments. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, no, I don't have any questions. I just would like to commend the staff for really putting together a comprehensive report that's thoughtful and detailed and does a great job of laying out the risks that the county faces. What's important, though, is it also it provides a reminder of the roadmap, which is budget balance, by which the elected officials of the county might actually attain the self-determination from a budgetary perspective that's attendant with the oaths of the offices for which they ran. And I think it would be helpful to see that happen sooner rather than later. They're close. There are some pitfalls that are out there, but there are a number of steps that they can take that can either move that meter further away or closer. And it's entirely within their control to do both. And I think you've done a good job of laying that out, so thank you.
Thank you for those kind words. And in turn, I'd like to point out that this was put together with excellent staff work by everyone making contributions, and proud of their work.
I have a couple questions, if I may, Evan.
Sure.
First, I want to ditto Chris's comments. You know, you always produce an excellent result on this report each year. You commented on salaries and wages, you know, and the risk associated there, primarily due to pending labor contracts. To what extent, if at all, did you factor in the possibility of filling of vacancies on current positions that are not filled?
Okay. Well, we do point out in the report, to the extent vacancies are not filled, the county, the administration would be able to generate savings that could be used to offset some of these other risks. But we have assumed that they will fill most of the vacancies, including scheduling police classes and hiring correction officers to fill a critical need that is believed to have driven up overtime usage at the correctional center.
So the 914 million projection includes those vacancies filled?
Yes.
Okay. I had two
Well,
other.
I'm sorry, the county, beneath that, the county has acknowledged that there is $7 million of available savings that
They've identified.
that may be available to help pay for labor contracts.
And
And they
presumably
did,
those would be from not filling positions?
yeah, well, they removed 66 positions, but
Right,
left
I
the
mean, we
funding
still
in
have
place.
outstanding questions in terms of whether or not other critical services would not be met if they don't fill certain positions. So as much as there are some savings there, I think there's some concerns in terms of what is being filled, what's not being filled, especially with the assessments division and department. And where are they in terms of that, Evan? They've been able to staff up the necessary resources for assessments?
They still have a considerable number of vacancies in the assessment department, somewhere on the order of 60, excuse me, 63 positions. So they have a long ways to go. We've been told by the administration that they are making a very concerted effort to find candidates to fill those positions, and that they are needed to help implement their assessment reforms that they've announced a couple of years ago.
They use it to balance the budget. I did it, everybody.
I had one other question, if I may. In the several years that I've had the opportunity to serve on this board, I believe this is the first time that I've seen a zero risk under tax certiorari and judgments and settlements. And you might want to correct me, but I don't think we've ever seen a zero risk there. You explained that well with the tax certiorari notation, particularly with assuming the bonding does not come to fruition, and that contributes towards the gap deficit. But my question is, under judgments and settlements, can you talk to that and you know, and in your level of confidence on how 30 million would be adequate?
It's been a number of years since NYFA authorized borrowing for judgments and settlements. But as you mentioned, they include $30 million in the operating budget. You know, it's our expectation, that's a reasonable estimate of what their exposure could be. The administration points out in their official statements, their bond documents, that there are potentially very large exposure to litigation, but no one could get it real, or, you know,
Well,
be certain on, you know, the amount or the timing.
If I may, Paul, I believe they also have a $15 million reserve.
They have $14.4 million in the litigation
So
reserve.
30,000 budgeted and 14.
$15 million reserve. But as we point out in the report, there are potentially some very large judgments out there which they haven't accounted for, which would either have to be bonded or paid out.
I mean, the Restivo case, was it last year or the year before, was 43 million all at one time? Right. Oh, right,
Right.
ultimately.
But there are other judgments concerning liability and other large
But
I just didn't want this to be perceived as the potential liability that's out there, because there is a much larger liability, and your point, I think, was what I was looking for.
Okay.
It's not just the number, it's the timing.
Right.
And what, Evan, any revenue implication for the county in the 4-year plan on any potential settlement with LIPA on their assessment case? Is there any evaluation of what that could do in the future?
In the
Or would it just be assumed in the overall levy, and it just would be money to LIPA but covered by the rest of the base? I mean, is there any impact to the county on a LIPA settlement?
Well, I'll start by saying in the county's CAFR for 2018, there's an estimate of $245 million potentially due to a settlement with LIPA. But the administration is, my understanding is they are looking to reach a deal that would minimize the impact on the county, potentially having no impact, no cash impact. It would be done prospectively, and but
When you say
we're not
prospectively,
privy-
when you say prospectively, does that mean that LIPA would get their reduction, but the amount to the county would just be made up by the rest of the base?
Oh,
Is that
yeah,
what
I'm
we're
sorry,
saying?
yes. The county would not lose $245 million. Well, they would not lose that revenue stream. It's reallocated to all the other members of the class of property. So it's basically like a pizza pie cut up in slices, and if one slice is made smaller, if LIPA slice is made smaller, all the other slices are made larger.
But the
to,
totality of the property tax revenue is $900 million, right?
That's unchanged regardless of how much LIPA
But
has
if
to
you
pay.
reallocate $235 million of that, it's pretty substantial impact on all the other people.
It's not 235 million
It's
in
a
1
piece of
year.
it. It's over time, right?
Yeah,
But
that's,
it'll shift in a non-meaningful way, or in a meaningful way, rather, the
Yeah.
amounts, so.
I don't know what the annual impact would be. That 245 million is an estimate for the outstanding liability.
Well, it's just something to keep an eye on, because it could be material.
Yeah.
In terms of the overtime number, Evan, on
Yeah,
the,
it's in the report.
you're risking 10.7 million on overtime, and you're saying that mostly is police and corrections, and that's based on what the current year is running at, or what's the basis of the 92 versus the 81? And also, are you suggesting that if the county does hire additional new class, that number can then come down? Is that what you were suggesting in your remarks?
This number, the $92.6 million, which, if correct, would result in a $10.6 million overspending of the budget, that actually assumes an improvement in the Department of in the Correctional Center management of their overtime, which in part is due to our expectation that hiring additional correction officers will allow them to staff more efficiently on straight time rather than overtime. But there is always the hope, and certainly the administration's expectation, that the Correctional Center, or the sheriff, will have a much more success in 2020 than they've been demonstrating in
Right.
recent years. So this risk does include an improvement over what we're projecting from 2019.
Okay. I guess just for the board and the public, why don't we just go through what happens now? So if we adopt your report as presented, we will then post it on our website, but then will be transmitted to the county officials. But in terms of the process, why don't you walk people through what has to happen now in terms of, this is only the county executive's proposal. This is before it's even gotten to the legislature, so we don't have any input from that as of now. Is that
Right.
correct? Yeah.
So
Why don't
the
Walk us through the
legislature,
timeline.
so we will forward this report of findings to to members of the legislature, all the elected officials. But the legislature hopefully will consider our findings in their deliberations of what to modify, if anything, in the county executive's proposed budget. The legislature must adopt a budget by October 30th by charter requirement, after which, if they've made any changes, the county executive and the legislature will go through a 17-day, potentially 17-day period where the legislature, or where the county executive can veto changes the legislature may have made to the budget. And then the legislature, should there be a veto, would have an opportunity to put up for a vote an override of those vetoes. So that brings us to a little bit past the middle of November, when the budget would be locked in place, at which time we would then come back and report, provide our analysis of what that final, the legislatively adopted budget looks like. And the board would have an opportunity to either approve what it looks like at that point, or send it back if we were unhappy with the choices that were made, or if we find the risks too great, NIFA could send it back and ask for changes to be made to bring it into compliance with what the NIFA directors want to approve.
But the legislature has a pre-election obligation to pass it, right? Isn't that in the charter?
October 30th,
That's- they have to
and
pass it
so that's before the election.
Okay, any other questions? Is there a motion to adopt
I'll make that.
the resolution?
Made.
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Move to adjourn.
Okay, the motion carries, and then there's a motion for adjournment. Is there a second?
Second?
You know what your
Favor?
chair is.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Waitress on both sides.